The great hall of the Interstellar Council stretched wide and high, a marvel of alien architecture. Glowing panels hovered in midair, casting soft light across polished floors. Species from every corner of the galaxy gathered here, some with 6 arms, others with scales that shimmered like precious stones, and some whose very eyes glowed with intelligence. The air buzzed with tension and quiet whispers. Today was no ordinary meeting. Today, leaders would decide the next champion to lead the galaxy's defense against an emerging threat from the outer rim. At the entrance of the hall, a human figure appeared, his steps steady despite the murmurs that rippled through the crowd. Captain Elias Varn, the human representative, wore a bulky suit of armor that had seen decades of use. Scratches and dents told stories of past battles, but it looked small and clumsy compared to the sleek advanced suits worn by representatives of other species. Elias paused, taking in the room. The council members were already seated in a semicircle, their eyes sharp and curious. Alien advisors whispered to each other, speculating about this human. A few snorted quietly, others leaned forward, as if expecting the human to stumble, as though it were pre-written in the galaxy's book of predictability that humans were weak. The human's eyes met those of a tall figure at the center of the council. She was Lady Sereth, a dignitary from the Sarathi Dominion. Her armor gleamed with polished metal that reflected the hall's light. She had observed many worlds, many species, and now she looked at this human with a mixture of amusement and disbelief. Elias stepped forward, the weight of his armor pressing on him, yet he moved with surprising ease. The hall seemed to stretch even wider as he walked, his gaze steady, his mind calm. He did not falter under the silent judgment of hundreds of eyes. Lady Sereth's voice cut through the murmur like a sharp blade. "That is his armor?" she said, her tone dripping with mockery. The word armor echoed around the hall. "It looks like something from an old human war museum. Surely you cannot take us seriously, Council, if this is your champion." A ripple of laughter spread among some of the younger representatives. Whispers grew louder, and a few of the older members shook their heads, hiding smiles. Elias did not respond. He simply adjusted a strap on his gauntlet and waited. One of the council's aides, a small green-skinned creature with 4 eyes, stepped forward. "Captain Elias Varn of Earth," the aide announced formally, "has volunteered to represent humanity in the upcoming trials." The hall erupted in quiet shock. Whispers turned into audible murmurs. Humans were known as clever and brave, yes, but they were physically weaker than most species present. They were often underestimated. Yet here was Elias standing firm, offering himself to face the best warriors of the galaxy. Lady Sereth's eyes narrowed. "A human? Bold? Or foolish?" she muttered. Her tone carried through the hall, making a few aliens laugh quietly. "I hope the council will forgive me if I predict a swift and embarrassing defeat." Elias finally spoke, his voice calm, steady, and clear. "Strength is not only measured by armor or weapons, Lady Sereth. Today I may show you a different kind of strength, one that does not come from steel or plasma, but from mind, courage, and heart." The hall fell silent at his words. There was something in his voice that commanded attention. It was not loud or arrogant. It was quiet but firm. Even Lady Sereth blinked, taken slightly off guard. She had faced countless warriors, strategists, and diplomats, but this human seemed different. The council president, a massive being with translucent wings and multiple tentacles, cleared its throat. "Very well," it said in a voice that rumbled like distant thunder. "The trials will begin in 3 days. All species will send their champions. Captain Varn, you will represent humanity." Elias inclined his head. "I am ready." After the announcement, the hall began to empty, though the whispers continued. Many were curious. Many were skeptical. A few, especially the human observers, felt a quiet surge of pride. Elias' presence, despite the ridicule, reminded them that humans had always thrived against the odds. Against larger, stronger, and more advanced adversaries, humans had survived, adapted, and grown stronger. Outside the hall, the human delegation gathered around Elias. Among them was Lieutenant Mara Lyle, a trusted friend and fellow officer. Her face was tense. "Elias, are you sure about this? They will not go easy on you. Look at their armor, their weapons, even their speed." "You're risking everything," Elias smiled faintly. "That's why we fight, Mara. Not because the path is easy, but because it is hard. We will show them that humans are not measured by what we wear, but by what we do. Mara shook her head but smiled. You always make it sound so simple. I just hope your armor holds up long enough for them to notice what you can really do. Elias tapped a panel on his armor's chest, activating a few internal systems. The suit was old, yes, but it had been modified over time. It was not fast or flashy, but it could protect him when used wisely. It will hold. If not, I will hold. That is all that matters. Meanwhile, Lady Sareth returned to her chambers, her pride slightly bruised. The human is foolish, she muttered, pacing. But perhaps there is curiosity beneath his arrogance. Let us see if this creature can survive the first trial. If he falls, it will be a lesson to all. Humans may talk, but they cannot fight. The next 2 days were filled with preparation. Elias studied the trial arenas, practiced movements in zero-gravity chambers, and ran simulations with his human team. Every detail mattered. Every weakness he could anticipate, every strength he could exploit, was carefully considered. While other species relied heavily on their advanced armor and weaponry, Elias relied equally on observation, planning, and quick thinking. In the quiet of his quarters, he thought about what Lady Sareth had said. The laughter and mockery had stung, yes, but it had also fueled him. Humans were used to being underestimated. History on Earth and beyond was full of moments when humans faced giants, invaders, or disasters, and prevailed through ingenuity and courage. Today would be another such moment. On the eve of the trials, Elias stood before a mirrored wall in his quarters, examining himself in the worn armor. Scratches marred the surface, dents bent the edges, and the paint had faded in places. Yet he saw not weakness, but resilience. Every mark was a story, every dent a lesson. Mara entered quietly. Do you ever worry that you're too ordinary? She asked softly. All these aliens, they are engineered, enhanced, or built for war. And here we are, just humans. Elias shook his head. Ordinary is not a weakness. Ordinary is a starting point. From ordinary we rise. From small, we become great. You will see, Mara. When the trial begins, they will remember more than my armor. They will remember what a human can do when cornered, when challenged, when expected to fail. Mara smiled, though her worry lingered. She knew him well. Elias's courage was absolute, sometimes frighteningly so. But it was also inspiring. The night passed slowly, filled with tension and anticipation. The grand hall waited for the morning, when champions from every species would gather to test their strength, skill, and strategy. Whispers about the human in worn armor continued to ripple through the galaxy. Some were derisive, some curious, and a few were quietly hopeful. Elias slept lightly, dreaming not of armor or weapons, but of the trials themselves, the tests of mind and heart. He would enter the hall not to prove the metal on his back, but the courage within his chest. When the first light of the twin suns of the home system filtered through the windows, Elias rose, calm and ready. Today laughter might greet him. Today mockery might follow his every step. But he knew one truth that no alien armor could ever hide. Humans, underestimated and overlooked, had a way of surviving, adapting, and triumphing when least expected. And with that, he stepped into the light, into the waiting hall, and into history. The morning sun gleamed over the Interstellar Council's training complex, casting long shadows across the sprawling grounds. Champions from every corner of the galaxy were assembling, their armor shining, their weapons humming with energy. Humans, small and underestimated compared to many other species, stood at the far edge observing quietly. Captain Elias Varn tightened the straps on his worn armor. Its surface was scratched, its edges bent, and its technology far behind that of other champions. Yet to Elias it was more than enough. Each dent told a story of survival, each mark a lesson learned. He did not need the fastest armor or the most powerful weapons. He needed strategy, courage, and the ability to think differently from others. Lieutenant Mara Lyle stood beside him, adjusting her own gear. Her bright eyes scanned the field nervously. Elias, look at them. They've all upgraded armor, advanced sensors, and smart weapons. Are you really going to compete with that? Elias smiled calmly. That is exactly why we will compete, Mara. They are used to power. They expect us to fail because we do not have it. But humans have something they cannot predict. We adapt, we observe, and we find ways to win when the odds are against us. Mara bit her lip. unsure whether to feel reassured or worried. She had trained with Elias for years and had seen his skill and cunning. But the scale of this trial was unlike anything humans had faced before. Champions from the Sarathi Dominion, the Vorlax Syndicate, and the Nathari Collective towered over humans armed with weapons that could tear through walls. And yet Elias did not flinch. The council president's booming voice called the assembly to order. "Champions of the galaxy," it said, wings shimmering with light. "You will participate in the grand trial. Your skill, intelligence, and courage will be tested. Only the champion who shows exceptional ability shall lead the defense task force." The crowd of spectators hushed. Champions exchanged glances, some confident, others wary, and then all eyes turned to Elias. Humans were small, their armor outdated, and many doubted they could survive the first round. Lady Sarath, tall and elegant in her polished armor, smiled coldly. "How charming," she said, her voice carrying clearly to the humans. "The little human believes he can stand against us." "This will be entertaining." Elias did not respond. He simply tightened his gauntlets and scanned the arena. The grand trial would take place in a zero-gravity stadium, a vast cylindrical space with shifting obstacles, moving platforms, and hazards designed to test agility, strategy, and courage. Champions would face each other in simulated combat, both individually and in teams. The arena could challenge not just strength but intelligence, perception, and endurance. When the trial began, the first challenge was announced: a navigation and combat exercise. Champions would move through a shifting environment, reach designated points, and eliminate simulated threats along the way. Speed, agility, and strategy were key. Elias observed the arena carefully. While other champions activated their advanced suits, adjusting thrusters and targeting systems, Elias took a deep breath. He did not rely on fast reflexes alone. Instead, he focused on planning. He memorized obstacles, noted vantage points, and identified areas where opponents might make mistakes. Humans had a way of thinking differently. They noticed patterns, predicted behavior, and adapted on the fly. The arena doors opened, and champions floated into the zero-gravity field. Elias followed calmly, his movements deliberate but confident. His armor was heavy, but he used momentum wisely, pushing off surfaces to navigate quickly. Other champions laughed quietly at his cumbersome suit, expecting him to fall behind. Within minutes, the first simulated threat appeared: floating drones designed to test reflexes and combat skill. The Vorlax champion fired advanced plasma bolts, easily destroying the drones. Elias studied the drone patterns and used his environment cleverly. He pushed off walls to create angles, using his armor's limited shielding to deflect attacks while knocking drones into the arena boundaries. Each move was calculated, resourceful, and precise. Spectators began to murmur. The human, small and underestimated, was surviving. More than that, he was adapting. He was not the fastest, not the strongest, but he was thinking. Every obstacle the arena threw at him, Elias used it to his advantage. Lady Sarath's eyes narrowed. "Clever," she muttered. "But will it be enough when real opponents attack?" Soon real champions appeared, and the trial shifted into direct combat. Elias faced a towering Nathari warrior, whose limbs moved with terrifying speed. The alien lunged with a blade that hummed with energy. Elias dodged and rolled, using his armor's weight to stabilize himself against the zero-gravity environment. He struck at the alien's joints, not to destroy, but to create imbalance. The arena was chaotic. Champions attacked from all directions, yet Elias remained calm. He observed, predicted, and exploited weaknesses. Other humans watched in awe. Even without advanced tech, he was surviving. He was winning skirmishes against opponents much stronger than himself. Hours passed. Challenges increased in difficulty. Moving platforms began to spin rapidly. Energy fields appeared, blocking pathways. Team challenges required communication and coordination. Elias excelled because humans could work together, communicate clearly, and adjust strategies quickly. When a teammate was in trouble, he found a way to help without compromising his own position. When opponents underestimated him, he used it to create openings. By the end of the day, the human team had survived every challenge. Elias, though exhausted, moved with determination. His armor was scratched, dented further, and his body bore the marks of effort, but his eyes were bright. He had done what no one expected. He had turned weakness into advantage, mockery into motivation, and doubt into respect. Outside the arena, Lady Sarath approached him. Her face was calm, but her eyes betrayed curiosity. "You are persistent," she said. "I admit I did not expect a human to adapt so quickly. But persistence alone will not win the grand trial." Elias looked at her steadily. "I do not rely on persistence alone, Lady Sareth. I rely on observation, thought, and the courage to act. Humans are not predictable. We survive when others fail, and we fight when others hesitate." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "We shall see," she said, turning away. Even she, proud and confident, could not ignore the fact that this human was more capable than appearances suggested. That evening, Elias returned to the human quarters. His team greeted him with quiet applause. "You did it," Mara said, smiling. "You survived the first trial, and you did it without a single advanced weapon." Elias shook his head, exhausted but calm. "We did it. Humanity is strongest when we work together, when we think, and when we refuse to be defeated by fear or mockery. That is how we survive. That is how we thrive." The next day would bring the arena's second phase, one-on-one duels against champions from other species. Speed, reflexes, and tactical skill would be tested further. Many doubted humans could survive these duels. Yet Elias felt ready, not because he had advanced armor or superior weapons, but because he trusted in what humans had always relied on: intelligence, courage, and heart. As night fell over the council complex, the twin moons of the home system rose high, casting a silver glow over the city. Elias stood by the window, looking out at the horizon. The laughter of Lady Sareth and others from the hall still echoed faintly in his mind, but it no longer bothered him. Humans were used to being underestimated. They thrived when the odds were against them, and tomorrow, when the duels began, they would see exactly why humans should never be counted out. Elias turned to Mara, who stood quietly beside him. "We will face stronger opponents tomorrow. But remember, Mara, the armor does not make the warrior makes the armor. And humans, we make the impossible possible." Mara nodded, inspired by his words. She understood what many others had not yet realized. The human spirit was a force to be reckoned with. Small, ordinary, and underestimated, it could surprise the galaxy in ways no armor could predict. With that, the humans retired for the night, preparing for the challenges ahead. Across the stars, whispers began to circulate. The little human in old armor had survived the first trial. He had outsmarted faster, stronger, and more advanced champions. And now everyone wondered, how far could he go? The arena loomed vast and silent, a cylindrical chamber suspended in zero gravity. Its walls shimmered with faint energy lines, shifting to create platforms, barriers, and obstacles at unpredictable intervals. Champions floated into position, their armor gleaming, their weapons ready. The spectators, gathered in observation pods above, held their breath. This was the moment that would separate strategy from brute strength, intellect from instinct, and courage from hesitation. Captain Elias Varn adjusted the straps on his worn armor and floated into the arena with deliberate calm. Each movement was measured. Unlike the other champions, he carried no advanced targeting systems, no plasma accelerators, and no enhanced mobility thrusters. His armor was old, scratched, dented, and seemingly ill-suited for the high-speed environment. Yet Elias's mind was sharp, alert, and focused. Lieutenant Mara Lyle followed closely behind, mirroring his movements. She whispered, "Remember, Elias, they will not hold back. The Netharian Vorlax are fast, faster than anything we trained for." Elias nodded. "I know, but we have an advantage they do not expect. Humans can think in ways they cannot predict. Stay sharp and trust in our strategy." The first challenge began. A series of combat duels were projected by the arena's energy field. Each champion would face an opponent in a one-on-one bout while navigating moving platforms, energy barriers, and floating hazards. Victory would require not just strength but creativity, adaptability, and quick thinking. Elias' first opponent emerged, a towering Vorlax warrior with 4 arms and thick, glimmering armor. Its weapons were energy blades capable of slicing through walls. The Vorlax charged immediately, spinning in the zero-gravity space, aiming to overwhelm Elias with speed and strength. Elias did not panic. He waited, studying the Vorlax's approach, noting the rhythm of its attacks. The human ducked, rolled, and used the armor's weight to maintain momentum against the spinning platforms. Each move was precise, calculated. Instead of trying to overpower the alien, he used its strength against it. A well-timed push off a wall sent the Vorlax spinning, colliding with an energy barrier and momentarily losing balance. Spectators gasped. The tiny human in worn armor had turned a disadvantage into an advantage. Mara whispered from the sidelines, "That was brilliant, Elias. You read its movements perfectly." Elias did not pause. He pressed forward, keeping his opponent disoriented, striking at joints and weak points while avoiding the powerful energy blades. The Vorlax tried to adapt, but Elias's strategy using unpredictability in the arena's environment kept him a step ahead. Within moments, the alien faltered, allowing Elias to claim victory. Next came the Nathari champion, a fast and lithe opponent whose reflexes exceeded even the Vorlax. The Nathari's weapons emitted pulses of concentrated energy, striking with blinding speed. Many humans would have been overwhelmed in seconds, but Elias relied on observation and timing. He noted that the energy pulses had a slight delay after firing, a brief window between attack and recharge. Using this, he moved with deliberate unpredictability, dodging attacks and countering with short, precise strikes. He guided the Nathari toward unstable platforms, letting the opponent's momentum work against itself. Step by step, the human gained control. The crowd, initially dismissive, grew silent. They could no longer ignore what they were seeing. Lady Sarath, observing from her pod, frowned. "Impressive," she admitted under her breath. "But the trials are far from over. Strength will matter eventually." Elias' strategy was not brute force, it was intelligence in action. Where others relied on weapons and armor, he relied on perception, adaptability, and clever use of the arena. Each duel highlighted a different human strength, resilience, ingenuity, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. Hours passed. Each round of combat grew more difficult. Champions faced multiple opponents at once, navigated moving platforms, and avoided hazards designed to test reflexes and endurance. Elias thrived not because of raw power, but because he remained methodical and observant. During a particularly difficult challenge, he faced two opponents simultaneously, a Vorlax and a Sarathi warrior. They attacked together, coordinating strikes to overwhelm him. Many champions would have panicked, but Elias remained composed. He allowed the Vorlax to advance, then pivoted, using its momentum to knock it into a barrier. He dodged the Sarathi's energy blade and used a floating platform to launch himself above the opponent, striking from an unexpected angle. The arena erupted in whispers. How could a human, in such outdated armor, outmaneuver champions built for speed, strength, and combat precision? Mara floated near him, adjusting her trajectory to support Elias if needed. "You're amazing, Elias," she said quietly. "You're doing what no one expected. You're surviving." Elias allowed a small smile. "We're not just surviving. We're proving something. Humans are underestimated, yes, but we can endure, adapt, and overcome. That is our strength." By the time the final duels of the day began, only a handful of champions remained. Elias faced one of the most feared competitors, the Sarathi elite, Lady Sarath's personal champion. She was fast, precise, and deadly, with combat skills honed over decades. She regarded Elias with calm confidence. Many expected this human to fall. The duel began. The Sarathi struck immediately, moving with lethal grace. Elias dodged, rolled, and calculated every movement. The zero-gravity arena added complexity, but he had learned to use momentum, push off walls strategically, and exploit environmental hazards. Every misstep by the Sarathi was noted and used to his advantage. He did not fight to overpower, but to outthink. When the Sarathi aimed a powerful strike, Elias sidestepped and triggered a platform mechanism that shifted the battlefield, sending the opponent slightly off balance. When she recovered, he used another platform to change his own trajectory, striking from an angle she did not anticipate. The duel grew intense. Spectators watched in complete silence, marveling at the human's ingenuity. He was slower, yes, but every move was precise. Every reaction was calculated. Despite the advanced armor and speed of his opponent, Elias was alive, winning ground, and controlling the pace. Finally, with a clever maneuver, he used the arena's energy field to push the Sarathi off balance, giving him a moment to secure victory. He did not gloat. He simply floated upright, catching his breath, and acknowledged his opponent with a nod. The hall erupted in astonishment. Whispers turned into applause. Elias had survived the first day of duels, facing multiple advanced opponents and emerging victorious. Humans, once dismissed, now commanded respect. Even Lady Sarath could not hide her admiration. "He is clever," she said quietly. "Not the strongest, not the fastest, but clever. Humans are dangerous when underestimated." Elias returned to the human quarters, armor battered but functional, mind alert and sharp. Mara and the rest of the team greeted him with quiet cheers. "You did it again," Mara said, smiling. "You survived the duels, and you made them question everything they thought about humans." Elias shook his head. "We did not survive by chance. We survived because we use what we have wisely. Brute force is not always the answer. Humans win when we think, adapt, and refuse to be defeated by expectation." He allowed himself a moment to rest, but the next challenges were already in sight. The grand trial would continue with more difficult tasks, testing intelligence, agility, and courage to the limit. He knew the other champions would try to counter him with advanced technology and teamwork. Yet Elias felt confident. Humans had one advantage that no armor could replicate: the ability to adapt, endure, and innovate under pressure. As the twin moons rose again over the city, Elias looked toward the horizon. Tomorrow, the arena would test him further, and the galaxy would watch. He did not fear the challenges ahead. He had faced ridicule, doubt, and superior technology, and he had survived. The human spirit, underestimated and often dismissed, was alive, sharp, and ready. And in the zero-gravity arena, against champions from across the stars, it would shine brighter than anyone expected. The next morning, the arena was alive with tension. Champions, spectators, and council members filled every observation pod. Today was different. Today's challenges were no longer simulations or random duels. They were tests of ultimate skill, strategy, and endurance. Every participant knew that failure now could mean elimination, or worse, being labeled as unfit to lead. Captain Elias Varn adjusted his armor, noticing the scratches and dents accumulated from the previous day's trials. His body ached, but his mind remained sharp. The worn armor, once mocked as outdated, had carried him through impossible challenges. Now it would carry him to the arena's final decisive phase. Lieutenant Mara Lyle floated beside him. "Elias, this next round? It's intense. Only the best will survive. Are you ready?" Elias nodded calmly. "We do not fight because it is easy, Mara. We fight because it is necessary. Today we show them what humans are truly capable of, not through speed or strength alone, but through courage, intelligence, and adaptability." The council president's voice echoed through the arena. "Champions, today you face your final challenge. Each will face a worthy opponent. Today one will rise as the leader of the Interstellar Defense Task Force. Begin." The arena shifted. Platforms rotated rapidly, energy fields sparked unpredictably, and gravity pulses created sudden shifts. Champions were immediately forced to think and move quickly. Most rushed forward, relying on strength and weapons to overcome the chaos. Elias, however, paused briefly, scanning the environment. Every hazard, every movement of platforms, every potential advantage was catalogued in his mind. Humans had always survived by observation and adaptability, and he would do the same. His first opponent emerged, Lady Sarath's personal champion, a formidable warrior whose reputation for speed and precision preceded her. She floated effortlessly in zero gravity, her armor gleaming and weapons poised. The hall, filled with spectators, leaned forward in anticipation. Many assumed this human would fall immediately. Elias, though smaller and less equipped, met her gaze calmly. "I do not need to be the fastest," he thought. "I only need to be smarter." The duel began. The Sarathi attacked with swift, precise strikes, testing Elias's reflexes and predicting his movements. Each blade swung with deadly accuracy, designed to exploit any hesitation. Elias dodged, rolled, and pushed off surfaces with deliberate timing. His worn armor absorbed impacts where necessary, allowing him to maneuver without being pinned down. Spectators gasped. The human, once mocked, was not retreating. He was surviving. More than surviving, he was countering intelligently. When the Sarathi struck too predictably, Elias used the environment to create a trap. He pushed a nearby floating platform, forcing her to adjust mid-attack, then used a wall to pivot behind her, striking at her flank. Lady Sarath's eyes widened. "Impossible."
"This human is..."
"Adapting," she muttered. her voice barely audible over the whispers in the observation pods. Elias's advantage was not his strength, but his ability to predict and manipulate movement. He noticed slight patterns in the Sarathi's strikes, minute delays that others might miss. He exploited them with patience, never overextending, always thinking 2 steps ahead. Each push, pivot, and dodge was precise. He used the arena's shifting platforms, energy pulses, and gravity shifts to create openings, gradually turning the battle in his favor. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. The duel was exhausting, but Elias remained focused. The human ability to endure under pressure, to maintain mental clarity while the environment shifted chaotically, proved decisive. The Sarathi attacked faster and faster, but Elias anticipated each move, countered, and waited for the moment to strike decisively. Finally, a chance appeared. The Sarathi attempted a powerful, sweeping attack designed to overwhelm him. Elias sidestepped, used the energy pulse from the arena to propel himself upward, and struck at her armor's weak point, a small gap at the joint of her suit. The blow staggered her. She floated back, caught off guard by the human's ingenuity. The hall fell silent. No one expected this. The once mocked human had gained the upper hand against the most feared champion in the arena. Elias floated upright, catching his breath. He did not gloat. He simply observed his opponent, ready for the next exchange. He knew the battle was not yet over, but the turning point had arrived. He had demonstrated that human ingenuity, patience, and courage could counter raw strength and advanced technology. Lady Sarath's expression hardened. "I underestimated you," she said quietly, "but do not think this victory is complete. Strength will be needed soon." Elias responded only with steady focus. Victory, he knew, was not achieved by words. It was achieved by action, by clever thinking, and by refusing to yield under pressure. The remaining champions began to notice a pattern. Elias did not rely on flashy attacks or overwhelming power. He observed, predicted, and used every small detail to his advantage. His moves were deliberate, precise, and intelligent. Where others rushed, he waited. Where others struck blindly, he calculated. Where others saw obstacles as barriers, he saw opportunities. The audience, initially skeptical, grew silent. Even the most cynical observers began to murmur in disbelief. How could a human, smaller and seemingly weaker, overcome champions designed for speed, strength, and precision? By the end of the day, Elias had survived multiple duels, each more challenging than the last. His armor was battered, his body exhausted, yet his mind remained alert. He had turned what seemed like a weakness, his small frame and outdated suit, into a strength by relying on what humans had always excelled at: strategy, courage, and adaptability. Back in the human quarters, Mara greeted him with a mixture of relief and awe. "Elias, you've done it. You've survived the toughest day yet. Everyone is talking about you." Elias shook his head. "We survived, Mara. That is what matters. Humans do not rely on luck or strength alone. We survive by thinking, by adapting, and by never giving up. That is what others forget. That is why we endure when the odds are against us." Mara smiled, inspired by his words. She understood that Elias had demonstrated something more profound than skill or bravery. He had shown that humans, underestimated and overlooked, could outthink even the most advanced champions in the galaxy. That night, as the twin moons rose, Elias stood by the window, staring out at the city below. The arena, the duels, the cheers and whispers, they all felt distant compared to the truth he knew. The armor was only a shell, the weapons only tools. True strength came from within, and humans had an abundance of it. Tomorrow, the final round awaited. The remaining champions would push to their limits, and the title of Interstellar Defense Leader would be decided. Elias felt no fear. He had faced ridicule, overwhelming opponents, and impossible odds, and he had survived. The human spirit, underestimated and often dismissed, was alive, resilient, and ready to shine brighter than anyone expected. Elias turned to Mara, a determined glint in his eyes. "Tomorrow we finish this, not with power alone, but with courage, intelligence, and the heart to face what others cannot. That is what humans do." Mara nodded, feeling the truth of his words resonate deep within her. They were ready. And the galaxy would remember the day the human in worn armor refused to be defeated. The arena was quieter than ever. A hush had fallen over the observation pods, as if the galaxy itself were holding its breath. Only a few champions remained, and at the center of this high-stakes arena floated Captain Elias Varn, human, small in size, but unwavering in spirit. His armor was battered and scratched from days of duels, yet it carried the story of his survival and ingenuity. Across from him hovered Lady Sareth, poised and confident. Her polished armor gleamed in the arena's energy light, her weapons humming with readiness. She had faced many skilled opponents in her life, yet this human had proven something extraordinary. He had survived, adapted, and outsmarted even her most precise champion. Elias studied her calmly. He did not underestimate her, but he also did not fear her. The final duel would test everything: strength, strategy, and heart. He had learned from every previous match, observed every flaw, and understood the value of patience. This was not merely a contest of weapons, it was a contest of intellect and courage. The arena shifted dramatically as the final phase began. Platforms rotated unpredictably, gravity pulses surged, and energy barriers appeared, forcing both combatants to adapt constantly. Many champions relied on raw speed or advanced technology to dominate, but Elias knew that true victory required observation and ingenuity. Lady Sareth struck first, her blades moving with blinding speed. Each strike was precise, meant to overwhelm and intimidate. Elias dodged and rolled, using momentum to navigate the zero-gravity environment. He did not attempt to match her speed. Instead, he focused on timing, angles, and the shifting platforms. The crowd was silent. Every spectator watched in amazement as the human, once mocked for his old armor, now countered with strategic brilliance. Where others relied solely on power, he relied on thought. Each movement he made was calculated, exploiting even the smallest gaps or delays in his opponent's attacks. Lady Sareth's eyes narrowed. "He is clever, almost too clever," she whispered. Her attacks became more precise, faster, and more unpredictable, yet Elias remained composed. He observed her patterns, anticipating moves that even her fellow Sarathi might have missed. The duel continued, tense and exhausting. Platforms shifted, forcing them to adjust mid-attack. Energy fields pulsed unpredictably, threatening to knock them off balance. Elias used every tool available: the environment, momentum, and anticipation. Every attack by Lady Sareth that relied on her speed or strength was countered by Elias's intelligence and precision. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. The audience could hardly believe what they were witnessing. A human, small and underestimated, had survived every challenge, outsmarted faster, stronger champions, and now faced the most feared warrior of the galaxy on equal footing. Finally, an opening appeared. Lady Sareth, attempting a powerful downward strike, slightly miscalculated her timing. Elias used the arena's energy pulse to propel himself above her, striking at the weak point in her armor's joint. The blow did not destroy her, but it staggered her, forcing her to recover. The hall was silent. Whispers of disbelief and admiration spread. Humans, long dismissed as weak or ordinary, had proven that intelligence, courage, and adaptability could overcome even the most advanced technology. Elias floated upright, catching his breath. He did not strike again immediately. Instead, he hovered, observing his opponent. He understood that victory did not come from brute force. It came from control, from patience, and from knowing when to act. Lady Sareth's expression shifted from confidence to grudging respect. "You are remarkable, human," she said quietly. "I underestimated you. I see now that humans are not to be dismissed lightly." Elias inclined his head. "Strength is not always in the armor we wear or the weapons we carry. True strength comes from perseverance, intelligence, and courage. Humans may be underestimated, but we endure, we adapt, and we overcome." The audience erupted in applause. Spectators, council members, and fellow champions alike acknowledged the skill, bravery, and ingenuity of the human champion. For the first time, many saw humanity not as small and weak, but as resilient, clever, and capable of extraordinary feats. Lady Sareth floated closer. "Your courage and intelligence have earned respect," she said. "You have shown the galaxy that humans can rise above expectation. Perhaps it is time I reconsider what I thought I knew about your species. Elias nodded, allowing a faint smile. Respect is earned through action, not words. We humans have long been underestimated, but we have always risen when the odds were against us. Today, you have seen what that means. The council president's voice rang out. Captain Elias, Varn of Earth has demonstrated extraordinary skill, intelligence, and courage. Humanity has earned its place among the galaxy's strongest and most capable. Let it be remembered that strength comes in many forms, and that the human spirit is a force to be reckoned with. The hall, once filled with laughter and whispers of mockery, now resounded with applause and admiration. Elias removed his helmet, revealing a determined yet calm face. The gesture was simple, but it carried meaning, transparency, confidence, and the courage to show oneself as human, vulnerable yet unyielding. Even Lady Sarath lowered her weapon slightly, acknowledging the truth she could not deny. Humans underestimated and overlooked had shown that armor and weapons were tools, not definitions of strength. Intelligence, strategy, and courage were just as powerful, sometimes more so. Elias's team, including Mara, floated to his side. They had watched him survive impossible challenges, and now witnessed history in the making. Mara smiled, her eyes filled with pride. You've done it, Elias. You've shown the galaxy who humans really are. Elias shook his head, modestly. We've done it. Humans survive because we think, because we endure, and because we refuse to be defeated by fear or mockery. That is who we are. The council chambers were filled with discussion and admiration. Humans, once dismissed as small, ordinary, and weak, were now recognized as capable, clever, and brave. Their ingenuity, courage, and adaptability had turned ridicule into respect, underestimation into astonishment. Lady Sarath approached Elias one final time. You have taught me a lesson I will not forget, she said. Humans are not to be taken lightly. Elias nodded. And we will continue to prove ourselves whenever the odds are against us. Humans endure, adapt, and rise above expectation. That is our nature. As the sun set over the council city, Elias looked out at the horizon. His armor, once mocked, was battered but respected. The galaxy had witnessed a truth that humans had always known. True strength was not only in the tools one carried, but in the mind, the heart, and the courage to act when others falter. The story of the human in worn armor spread across star systems. He had faced ridicule, overwhelming odds, and champions of great power, and had emerged victorious. Humanity, small and underestimated, had shown that ingenuity, courage, and resilience could triumph over superior technology and strength. The twin moons rose, casting silver light over the city and arena. Elias, calm and steady, stood with his team, ready to face whatever the future might hold. The galaxy had witnessed the power of the human spirit, and respect had been earned, not through dominance, but through intelligence, courage, and unwavering resolve. From that day forward, humans were no longer dismissed. They were recognized as adaptable, clever, and resilient, a species capable of surviving, thriving, and shaping their destiny in ways the galaxy could no longer ignore. And in the heart of the arena, where laughter once echoed at his armor, there was only silence and respect. Captain Elias Varn had proven the truth. It was not the armor that made the warrior, but the courage, intelligence, and heart within.